Okay, so here we go. All right, so we're going to have some array play. I've got the objectives below. To be honest, it's likely we'll have to break the video up into sections, and the sections are essentially where the spaces exist. But let's see how we go. So let's begin firstly by explaining what an array is. An array is simply a collection, it's a group of items. Okay, so let's begin by defining a basic collection. All right, so I'm going to call this array 1. This is known as a declaration, and all we have done here is declare that an array exists. If we try to actually access that array, e.g. array 1, and let's say position 0, okay, then you will see that I have an error. Okay, because we've only declared the array, so essentially we cannot access it. So this is a null pointer error because we cannot access something that does not exist. And all we have done here is simply declare the array. So I'm going to delete that. Okay, so this is a declaration of an array. Here we are going to define a new array, array 2, and we are going to say that array 2 is equal to the following. And let's just give it a few elements: 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, so on the first line we did a declaration. Okay, on this line number 15 we actually created an array, and this array has been essentially initialized with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. So it's been initialized with 5 elements. We start our counting in arrays at position 0. So 0, 1, and so on and so forth. So position 0 is our number 10, position 1 is 20, position 2 is 30, position 3 is 40, position 4 is 50. Now, or index, sorry, so our index positions. So although we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements, we do not have an index position 5. So if we decided now to try and access our array, okay, and we wanted to access position 5, we would receive an error. Now you can't see there's an error there, but when I run the code, it tells me I have an error, and the type of error is an index out of bounds exception. So an array index out of bounds exception, because position 5 doesn't exist. But if we amend that and add position 4, or index 4 essentially, and we run that, you will see we do not get an error, and it returns the value 50. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So our value 50. So far we've declared an array. Let's call this initialize. So we've initialized an array. Okay. Creation of an array is generally referred to as what I will show you here. So array 3. Okay, make sure you don't put any spaces in your arrays reference. Okay, so I'm just going to system out print. Let's cover that for a moment. So in array 3, I'm going to say you are equal to a new, okay, and it's int box bracket semicolon, and I'm going to say that you have, let's say, 5 elements. So this is another way of defining an array. This is creating an array. Okay, so we'll call that creating an array, and it has 5 elements. Now, if we consider those elements, every element will have the default value. In the case of an int, the default value is 0. So if I want to access the array, I will type in array 3 box bracket, and the number will be, let's just say, position 2, for example. And if I print that, that should return 0, because that's returning the default value, okay, within the array. So far we have declared an array, okay, we've initialized an array, and we've also created an array. And furthermore to that, we've accessed the array. So this here is us accessing the array. In order to access an array, we simply type the array's name followed by the box brackets, and inside the box brackets you give an index position. If we want to access all the elements of the array, there are a few ways to do this. Okay, a for loop usually suffices. Okay, now what do we have here? We have a for loop. The for loop has 3 arguments. First argument is the index position of our starting point. Then we have the length, okay, or the condition, how long we want this to iterate for, how many times we want the cycle to repeat itself. Now, an easy way would be to say, if we're using array2, for example, we'd say array2.length, and we access the array's length property, okay, and that will essentially give us the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I could equally replace this with the number 5, okay, and not like that. So while I is less than 5, and then I could just simply print out my element, which essentially is my access in the array. So if I said array box bracket, and inside here, the box, I just put the I, because that index position changes each time. And of course we are accessing, let's say, array2, for example. So if I run that, that should give me 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Let's comment any other print statements so we don't get confused. So that gives me 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Excellent. Okay. And that is us accessing all of the elements in the array. So for loops are useful for accessing all of the elements, okay? Using a for loop, we can also amend the elements, okay? That's the great thing about a for loop. This is also known as traversing the array, because we're essentially iterating through each element of the array, okay? So with this for loop, we can also edit the elements of the array. So for example, I can say array2 position I is now equal to, okay, and let's give it a new value. Let's say 10. So we're going to say everything in the array is now equal to 10. Let's put that above our print statement, okay, and put a semicolon there so it compiles. And then we're just going to print out our elements again. Okay, so this now amends the elements within the array to our new value, which is 10 in every position. So if I run that, that should return 10 5 times. So we've got 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. All right, so as you can see, we can use a for loop to amend the elements, okay? And with our I++ here, we could actually potentially skip positions by saying I plus equals 2, for example. So that means that we're not going to print every position. How many positions do we print? So we only print 3 here, because we start off at 0. Okay, then we add 2 to 0, so that becomes 2. So we print off 0, then 1, 2, so this position, and then add another 2, and we print off the final position. Of course, we amended our values to 10, so that's the reason why we printed out 10 for each element. If I just comment that out, and we print the original array, let's see what that gives us. That gives us 10, 30, 50. Okay, so let me just change that back to the normal I++. Okay, if we want to go backwards through the array, what we can do, we can start off at the final position of the array. Okay, the final position would be 5, or we could equally say array dot, or not, it wouldn't be 5, would it? It would be 4, sorry. We could equally say array 2 dot length, okay? And then we could simply start off, do the reverse. So while I is greater than, let's say while it's greater than 0, okay? Greater than or equal to 0 perhaps, okay? And then we would say I minus minus. So that's going to now print in reverse. So let's just check, give that a whirl and see if it worked. Okay. Oh no, we had an error. So we started off with the length, which was 5. Okay, so let's just minus 1 from the length immediately, because as we remembered, we don't have the position 5. we have an out of bounds error. So no issue. Okay, so here we go. We started off at 50, which was our final position, 40, 30, 20, 10. Okay, so we'll just comment that code out. So that essentially allowed us to print the array in reverse. Okay, using the minus minus, starting at the length -1 position, because if we start at the length, we're essentially starting at position 5. That does not exist. So the index position 5 does not exist because the final index position is 4. So we had to say length -1, and we said while I is greater than 0, keep minusing 1 from our length. So that would be 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And because we said equal to 0, it allows us to access 0, and then it stops at that point. Okay, so I'm just going to comment that code out. I hope that having all this code here is not confusing. If we want, we can perhaps just, let's move some of this information out of the way. Okay, we'll just move it below our code area here. Okay. We'll keep the arrays for the time being. So far we've covered declaring an array, array creation and access. We've covered traversing an array, which essentially is going across the array. And we're now going to look at the enhanced for loop in arrays. So the enhanced for loop, it follows this format. So it's also called a for each loop. Okay. And let's just have a look at it. So we begin here by defining essentially the type of element that we're looking at. So we are looking at integers for all 3 of our arrays. And the element name, okay, we usually refer to it in the for loop as an index, but in this case it's not really an index, so it's actually the element itself. Okay. Then we have colons instead of semicolons. And we have array 3 here is the array that we wish to iterate over. Now this array is only going to really give us zeros, so let's use array 2. I think that would be a better array to use as an example. And we're just going to put a system out print statement here. And all we need to do is insert the E here. Okay, so I'll just put a comment here. This is a for each loop. A for each or an enhanced loop is a much more eloquent loop. The only difficult thing with the enhanced loop is we can't really edit the elements within the loop. So we can't change the elements within the array itself, but we can actually just access them, so print them. So here we go. If we run that, that will give us 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, so system out print. E, I'll just remind you, refers to the element itself. What type of element is it? It's an int, okay? And our array is array 2, okay? So what have we done so far? We've declared an array, we've created an array, we've accessed that array, we've traversed the array using a for each loop above, okay, and a for loop, which is below, just here. Okay, so we've done all of those items. The video's slightly long, so I'm just going to stop us there, and then we'll go into the next video for the next session. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you. Okay, maybe I'll just show you 2 more things just before we exit this video. So with the arrays, we have some additional array methods that we can use. Okay, so we've got an array to string method. Okay, and what does that look like? So we're using the arrays.util class. Okay, I may have to add an import statement. Let's just check. To string. Okay, and what we're essentially doing is converting our array to a string. Okay, and this is a quick way to print the array, usually actually without doing a whole for loop as we have done previously. So I've just done my system out print here. I'm gonna add an argument in here, which is one of my arrays. We've been using array 2 for some time, so let's just stick with that. And finally, I'm just going to add a semicolon here. So what are we saying here? System out print lin arrays, okay, which is using the arrays class, which is in the java.lang class, okay, dot toString, and then it's got array 2. So if I run that, okay, let's see what we get. So I get my print statement, and let me just comment the previous for each loop out so it doesn't confuse us with the output. Okay, and I'm just going to run that again. So system out print, and it gives us 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So it gives us our array in a very quick method, really, if you consider all the code we've written previously. The only difference is it arrives in the box brackets with commas, separated by commas. So that is the array to string method. It's quite a useful method if you just want to check what's in your array. Array to string method. Okay. Another method I'd like to show you is our array copy method, and that will probably be useful because we have an empty array, or a partially empty array in some respects, because it has zeros as the default value. So let's just have a quick whirl of this. What we're going to do here is use our array copy method using these existing arrays here, and I'm just going to grab my array copy method. I'll copy and paste it to make time move a bit faster. And essentially what I'm saying is system.arrayCopy. The first array, okay, is going to be my source array, which will be my array2. So I'll put that in here. Okay, from what position do I want to copy in my source? Let's copy from position 0. So position 0, which is here. Okay, my array 3 is the array that I'm copying to. So this is my destination array. Okay, what position do I want to copy to my source array? Also starting at position 0. And what length do I wish to copy through to? So I'll just add a comment here so we can see all of that information. Okay, and then we'll have a go at printing our array. So I've just added my comment here. I hope that makes sense to you. And now, in fact, let's do it in 2 places. So what I'm going to do is print my original array. Let's get rid of my arrays to string method. Okay, we're using the array copy method now. I'm just going to print array3. Okay, and why not? Let's use our array to string method. Alright, so I'm just going to copy and paste it to save us some time. Okay, and let's just see the contents of array3. So that should be zeros currently. Okay, so 5 zeros. Now I'm just going to grab that statement, and because Java is the language that does things in a specific order, now if I place this below, let's see what happens with array3. What values do we have inside? So now we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, okay, by using the array copy method. Okay, so just to remind you, the first value in our array copy method, okay, let's just put a space there. The first value in our array copy method was the source array. The next item was the source position, so where we're copying from in our source position. Then which array we're copying to, so our destination array or our second array, what position we're going to begin copying to, and the length from which we wish to copy. Okay, so how many items do we wish to copy? 5. Alright, I hope that was good for you. Just a quick note to say, lines number 29, so line number 29, essentially what we've done here, we've used an import statement in order to access this arrays to string method. So I may not have said that previously. I thought I'd just outline that. The import statement goes above our class. We could either use the import java.util.arrays, which gives us access to this item, or we could have just simply done import java.util.star, which essentially gives us access to any folder below the util folder. Okay, so the star is a wildcard, and it just says you can have access to any item below. So if I don't do that item, if I don't add the import statement, what you may have experienced is the arrays to string method does not work. So please make sure you have that import statement. Apologies if I didn't tell you previously. Excellent.